So that I'll be joined on the Star Sport podcast this week by John Hayes to discuss the Cork and Kerry game that took place at the weekend. Obviously, Cork losing agonisingly after extra time last Saturday. I suppose, John, what's your first reactions after the game? A very good performance by Cork. Heroic is what I was hearing in the media circles over the last few days, but ultimately it is another defeat to Kerry. Hard to take, obviously, but the performance, it was a brilliant showing by the players all the same.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a brilliant effort, definitely. I don't think the performance would be described as brilliant as such, though. Like the way I see it, look, it was a crazy game in a lot of ways. And to be honest, like the first 25 minutes, Cork were way off it. They were way off it. Kerry were in complete control, and we're 9 points to two up after 25 minutes, and it should have been more, really. Kind of some poor finishing and maybe 15 points when there was half chances of goals and that kind of thing. Kind of a little bit on Kerry, kind of like Cork off the hook to an extent. And then, in fairness, Brian O'Driscoll, he stood up, tore into the game. 5 points there in the 10 minutes before halftime, just from Brian. Almost single-handedly dragging Cork back into it, and Cork were blessed to be 2 points down at half time and normal time, I suppose. Then the start of the second half, Cork came out, they had a bit of spirit. Brian Hurley kicked a big 2-pointer and that kind of thing, but they weren't able to put it on the board as such. And then Kerry kind of had a purple patch again, and put a few points ahead, and then Cork get cut out, a long kick out. And I suppose before coming on this evening, and when doing the column, I kind of went back and I started watching the game from the Paul Gainey goal. That's kind of the moment when everything kind of kicked off. So I went back and started watching it from that moment on, and it's 117, I think, to 12 points. And Kerry again. Look, I think Mark O'Shea's comment on the commentary was game, set, and match Kerry when that goal went in. But just moments later, Paddy Clifford goes in high on Matty Taylor. Again, I think it's probably a harsh red card. I thought it was kind of fell into the black category, kind of up around the kind of a horse collar tackle around the shoulders, neck, all right, yeah. So a little bit in, but I suppose in the conditions it looked worse than I think the tackle really was. But straight red card, and Cork in the following 2 minutes, Colin Manny 2-pointer, Sean McDonald 2-pointer, and Chris O goal. So the game was completely flipped on its head in 2.5 minutes, and all the momentum and the extra man with Cork. And I think from that moment on, I think Cork will have a lot of regrets. I agree with you in terms of, I think the effort was outstanding, and every one of them went out in their shield pretty much. But they'll have a lot of regrets about the execution, I think, in the last 10 minutes of normal time and in extra time as well. I mean, it's well documented. You know better than anyone the stats on what Cork missed. There were several wides in the last 10 minutes. There was a 9 wides to nothing in extra time then as well. So, yeah, look, I think a lot of people very positive coming out of the game and everything else like that, and I understand that. But I think for the management and the senior players, they'll be absolutely sick to their stomachs. I think not to have taken the win. They should have taken the win. They know that themselves.
I suppose, yeah, John Cleary afterwards, in the media area, he was absolutely devastated in not getting the result, and made no mistake about it. Cork were there in Parky Heath to win the game. And what you mentioned, John, about the conversion rate there, with the stats obviously in this game as well. And I think from the second half and extra time combined, Cork had a conversion rate of 50%, Kerry had 71%. That was the major difference probably in the game, in what it holds in the results. But you would agree that Cork would have regrets over this. Was it an opportunity lost to beat this Kerry side? Will Cork ever have an opportunity like this again in the next few years?
Well, look, it definitely was an opportunity lost, and they know that. And afterwards, they got a good ovation from the crowd, and well deserved. And again, in a lot of cases, but I'd be looking at Ian Maguire, Brian Hurley, Rory Dean, Micheál A. Martin, Matty Taylor, Sean Powter. All these guys have given a decade or more of service to Cork, and this was the chance, great players for Cork, great guys who've really put in a shift and have left just nothing of substance to show for it. And if I was in their boots coming off that pitch, I was kind of watching. I think Rory Dean had gone off injured. I was watching him, and he was crestfallen. There's no doubt about it. Some of the younger players obviously can take a lot of more heart for the future and the rest of it, and say, look, we can match up to these guys when we get it right. But for the senior players and the management as well, I just think, there'll be a lot of regrets, and they'd be sick to their stomachs that they didn't convert it, because it was, look, I think we have to be straight about it. It was a serious opportunity. Like, Cork were Drew level, get 1-4, probably the fastest 1-4 you'll ever see in a game of Gaelic football. Bring the game level and have the extra man, and then create so many chances in the normal time and in extra time, but could never get that couple of points ahead. Got 1 point ahead on occasion at the end of the game and in extra time, but then didn't just put another one on the board. Got a little bit obsessed, I think, with the 2-point shooting as well. When we got one ahead, there was a couple of opportunities. Colin Owen McSweeney, when there was space in front of them to go. Like Kerry attempted, I think Kerry attempted 3 and Cork attempted 14. So yeah, 2-pointers are a valuable commodity and you want to go for them. But I think the Kerry attitude is, you work the best scoring chance, you keep working the board and put it over the bar. Whereas Cork just got a little bit kind of blinkered towards 2-pointers, and just the poor conversion definitely cost them in the end. And as well, I think Brian Hurley went off and Matt Cronin went off, and the lack of a free taker at that stage. Like, Brian O'Driscoll can kick frees, Carl O'Mahony can kick frees, Chris Jones can kick frees, but when they're tired at the end of a hard game like that, when maybe Colin O'Mahony, for example, hasn't played all that much football, maybe the confidence isn't quite there in the free taking. That's when you need your established free takers and the guys who are going to split the posts nine times out of 10 in those situations. So yeah, we left a nice bit behind us from frees and from play. So they definitely will. I mean, like I said, I just watched it back there from the end of normal time and the extra time, and just there's no question the opportunity was there for Cork to win the game, and it would be okay. It wouldn't be so bad, as I said, if Cork were winning Munsters every 3-4 years, kind of like we did maybe back along in the noughties and the 90s and stuff like that, when we were securing titles a little bit more than we are now. But the fact that it is now, it's 13 seasons without a Munster Championship in Cork. We'll be down, if we can get there, depending on how the draw goes. We'll have to go to Kerry next year, more than likely. Everyone knows the record down Fitzgerald Stadium. So yeah, big opportunity lost. There's positives to be taken, but I do think those established guys that I mentioned, they'll be regretting it more than most, I suppose, more than anyone.
And you talked about the swinging games there. You mentioned the Paddy Clifford incident, and you agreed with your said there that it wasn't a red card. Kind of the weather conditions they played a role in that. But the other two incidents, the second goal for Kerry, Sean O'Shea, by the looks of the clips anyway, it looked like he took about 8 or 9 steps, and then you look at the extra time with Sean Brady getting sent off as well. What about those two instances? Were they kind of harsh on Cork in the whole spectrum of the game?
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah. Look, and again, you don't want to be too hard on the officials and anything else like that. It's really difficult to game at that speed and in difficult conditions as well. But yeah, definitely, Sean O'Shea definitely took too many steps in the run into that goal. Maybe he was a foul. There was a play in the hand, but I didn't see the hand go up for advantage. So I think that was it was either a free in or a free out. You can't give a fella eight steps or whatever it is. That's not in the rule book. So yeah, that should have been either a free in or a free out, one or the other. And definitely then, in the Sean Brady one. Look, like at the time I was in the south stand upper, and a long way, it happened on the other side of the pitch from us. And it happened very quickly. Joe O'Connor, as he did all night, plucked the kick out. And Sean came in kind of quickly. I suppose it's a foul for a start, because you can't tackle the guy from after claiming a mark. But it just happened quickly, and Joe O'Connor made a massive meal of it. Like, you can see it when you watch it on the the TV afterwards, like the contact is low around here, around his midriff. You know, there's not the contact to the head that it looked like potentially at the time. Obviously, looked like to the linesman, but yeah, I think there was just a massive element that they were evening it up after the Kerry red card. Like I said, I think Paddy Clifford's was a black card offence as opposed to a red card offence, and I think Sean Brady's was probably not even a yellow, just a free, I would say, and. Yeah, free for tackling a guy after the mark, but no, it shouldn't have been a red card. And yeah, I think the officials on the big calls didn't get it right, really. Simple as.
And another kind of element to the game as well, the kickouts. And like you were mentioning on your column last week, myself and Kira were mentioning this kind of element as well in last week's podcast about the kickouts and the way the Cork could get at Kerry, considering Barry, Dan O'Sullivan and Joe Connor in the next game, obviously. But they're a relatively new midfield pairing, and we were thinking the Cork could have the capacity to dominate Kerry at midfield with the likes of Maguire and Colin O'Callaghan there. It didn't seem to materialise in the first half, and the kick-out strategy that you keep referring to in the last few years, especially last year in your column as well, about the kick for beyond A. Martin to the left, that seemed to keep going in the first half. It kind of got better as the game went on. The second half, a few kind of elements. Obviously, change of goalkeeper for Kerry. Shane Ryan went off. Shane Murphy went into goal and didn't probably look comfortable on the kickouts. And then Sean Walsh, I thought, coming on in extra time was absolutely exceptional at feeling the ball as well. So, like, is that kind of another element that Cork would have regrets on, especially with the kickout strategy in the first half in particular?
Yeah, look, yes, I think it is an area that look, Cork have decided this is the strategy, and you know they have tried to line up a second kind of a set piece where they line up centrally in a line and break wide. But a lot of time, actually, if nothing kind of became apparent to me all, they just shifted towards the box on the left hand side, and were trying to do it on the move almost, and it was possibly even less effective. And also, the other kind of result of it is that when Cork don't win those kickouts, we're very much at sea defensively in terms of we're not in our positions and not picking up, you know, direct opponents, and it becomes a kind of a case of just picking up the guy who's nearest to you. And like, I was surprised, I suppose, again, and other people who said that someone wasn't detailed, even just to stick with Paddy Clifford, like no matter where he goes, kind of a situation. But it wasn't that case. Different people were picking him up at different times in the first half, and I think he's too good a player to be kind of passed from one guy to the next. He was pretty influential before he was sent off, and even then on the Kerry kick out as well, they pushed up at times, and a couple of key occasions. I think the Gainey goal was one. The ball went straight over the top, and Clifford ended up going through and goal. And then straight after Cork went the point up in extra time, pretty much the same thing happened. Colin McCallan attacked the ball, but it went through his hand on the slippy night, and Kerry went down, and I think it was the equaliser they got out of that, or you know, might have even ended up. Yeah, they definitely got a break anyway out of it, you know. So, yeah, I think everyone agrees we'd like to see more variety to Cork's kick-out strategy. I don't think a total reliance on one kick-out strategy is a good idea in any sport, in any game, and everything else. And as well, you know, like, there just seems to be a lack of confidence. Other teams will they'll still pick out a 30-yard little, just a ping between players to a half-back. It keeps the opposition honest. It keeps them pushed out, because the other teams at this stage know, like, they can back off or kick out because it's just going to go along over their heads and then get under the brakes. And Kerry cleaned Cork on the brakes in the first 20-25 minutes when they were struggling. And like, Cork went a man up for the last 10 or 15 minutes of this game. So they should have been able to generate quite easily free men for a 30-yard little ping from Micheál Martin, but it's just not the way that they are coached to play and want to play as well. So, yeah, look, I think it's well flagged. You know, Cork have one primary kick-out strategy, and they can be pretty good at it. But I think Joe O'Connor had a lot of success as well. Like so, and like I said, they were well cleaned on the breaks in the first half of the game as well. So yeah, look, I think we might be banging our head against the wall a little bit with it, but it's definitely an area to be looked at.
You talked about earlier in the chat as well about the over reliance on 2 pointers. Maybe that was evident in the game, especially in extra time when Colin Mahoney was taking on them efforts, obviously. But moving on later on the championship, could you see that as a positive for Cork? Getting a low 2 pointers. Obviously, six on one night against Kerry is absolutely exceptional, and it's probably like Cork. When you look at the whole country in terms of how they played in the championship so far, Cork are probably one of the best in terms of 2 point kickers. Like five different players kicked 2 pointers on the night. Is that a positive for Cork moving forward?
Yeah, it's a positive when you kick them. So yeah, like 6 from 14 is okay, and like it was that moment after the Paddy Clifford thing, they nailed 2 out of 2 in that moment, and yeah, of course you're delighted, and you follow up with a goal. I said, geez, we're motoring now, but we missed an awful lot of them after that, you know. We missed, like I said, I think Almani might have missed 3 in total himself from outside the arc, at least. One McSweeney missed from outside the arc, if I remember. A couple of frees from outside the arc didn't go over. So, yeah, look, I wouldn't like to see them be so kind of hell bent on doing it. I think Conor Callahan's score maybe there was kind of a quick 1-2, and it was either Conor Callahan's or one of Chris Oak's points, and Brian O'Driscoll and the two of them actually went direct towards the ball because Cork got in the habit late in the game of going laterally, and just hoping that the 2 pointer would open up and kicking under pressure. Then the 2 pointers are fine, but if you're kicking under pressure, it brings down your chances a lot, and that's what Cork ended up doing. There was one little, like the Chris O point towards the end of or start of the second half or start of extra time, and Conor Callahan's one where we actually attacked the D. You know, you can still attack the D and create opportunities there and get in for something. It's only a 1 pointer, but it's a far higher percentage shot. And Kerry are putting up big scores without having to rely on the outside shooting. It's a good, absolutely, of course, it's a good arrow to have in your bow. But yeah, like I wouldn't be over reliant on it again if it was coaching a team myself. But yeah, look, again, I don't want to be negative because not many people gave them much of a chance going up to the game, and they absolutely did work their socks off and did play some very good football at times. But yeah, look, I think they'll look at it themselves and know there's I suppose one of the big positives is that Cork didn't play. They played far from a perfect game, and they still probably should have beaten the league champions and the favourites for the All Ireland. So that kind of shows that if we can make those improvements and tighten up on those few things like the conversion rate and improving on our kickouts, our own kickouts, maybe getting 1 or 2 away a little bit cleaner and easier, then there's no reason we can't have a very positive season for the rest of it.
In terms of players, obviously you mentioned him earlier in the chat, Brian O'Driscoll. Like looking at him the other night, 5 points overall, 2 2 pointers. I think 11 points from play across the 2 games against Limerick and Kerry, 4 2 pointers overall. Is he one of Cork's most important players at this present moment in time?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, he is. I think the 2 midfielders as well. I think Ian Maguire and Colin McCallan. I think Ian, after not early, he wasn't in the game a lot early on, but he tore into it afterwards, and he covered immense ground and got massive turnovers, especially defensively. That had been massive effort. Colm, maybe not his greatest night, but still impacted the game. Late in the game, when in extra time, he was still going. Forced Tony Brosnan to overcarry defensively for a free that kind of got Cork back into the game after I think Kerry had gone 3 points up. Did some good things, but I think Brian O'Driscoll, 100%, Cork's form player at the moment. The 2 midfielders, those are the key guys we have at the moment up front. Different guys do it at different times. Chris Og, Mark Cronin, Brian Hurley, Cahill. I think Chris Og is probably the most consistent at the moment. We just need a little bit more consistent out of our consistency out of all those guys. Hopefully Conor Corbett can come back into it, make an impact. Hopefully defensively, Tommy Walsh can get over his injury problems. Hopefully Luke Fahey comes back into it soon. I think to mention Daniel Lamani as well. Like I think he's a great player. I'd like the battle between Daniel Lamani and David Clifford was, I thought, sensational stuff, and worth the entrance fee for any neutral alone. Daniel Manny had a great game, but David Clifford still gets 8 points from play, so that kind of tells you the standard that those two guys were at as well. So, yeah, look, it was massively entertaining as well. It was the best Cork and Kerry game in quite a long time. So I think just from people who enjoy football and who love football, it was great to have that as well, and it's kind of a big endorsement of the new rules as well. So it is good. There's positivity back about Cork football, but yeah, look, I think they'll be kicking themselves in a way as well. So hopefully it's not the last chance for some of those guys. I really hope it's not. But yeah, look, I think. Hopefully the rest of the season can spring back and be positive, but it's definitely a huge opportunity last year.
Talked about the rest of the season there. How important is it to keep this kind of run of good form going? Good performance against Kerry, obviously, joined their sword and all that, but how important is it to back up these performances in the group stages? Because we've seen so many times about Cork footballers, they'd have a good performance like they did against Donegal last year, then go out of the championships without. How important is it to back up this performance against Kerry the next day in the All-Ireland group stage?
Yeah, look, it's obviously the whole season rides on it now. Everything's riding on it for some of the people involved. So, like, that's I suppose the other galling thing is that if we had seen out that game and hopefully gone on, because obviously we can't take anything for granted, and hopefully had gone on to win a Munster Championship against Clare, you'd be a top seed, I think, for the All Ireland Championship for the group stage. And I know we're going in as a third, maybe even a fourth seed. So you'd be playing against a provincial winner and a provincial runner-up, and probably a team seeded higher than you in the league seedings as well. So it won't be an easy group. But it wasn't an easy group last year, and the name of the game now for the squad is qualifying for the knockout stages, and then you can point to last week and say, as we can compete with anyone, and with improvements, we can beat anyone. I mean, that is the next target, is just knockout football, get into the All Ireland to last 12 or straight through to the quarter final if you can at all. And yeah, like you can build from there, but that's the target now. It has to be.
And even, yeah, you looked at, obviously, you explained the group there. It's a provincial winner, provincial runner-up. I think Cork will be playing a provincial runner-up in the first game away from home, so it could be Clare, could be even Mayo, considering they could lose to Galway in the Connacht final, and Ulster finalists, Louth or Kildare maybe. So would you be fancying Cork's chances going into that sort of game? Obviously, we don't know the opponent for sure yet.
Yeah, look, I suppose if you're away to Mayo or you're away to one of the Ulster teams, like either Donegal potentially or Tyrone or whoever it could be. They're difficult games. They're very difficult games. So yeah, it'd be a very, very tough start to it. Look, and we saw, unfortunately, we've been to Louth / Monaghan, I suppose, a couple of times in recent seasons without much success. So we wouldn't be favourites for that on paper either, maybe, but I suppose Louth or Kildare away would be the pick of the fixtures if you could take your choice at the moment. But yeah, look, that's just the net result of it, and ultimately, I suppose they just have to take it as a big opportunity and a big challenge. Cork want to be among the big guns. Cork want to be competing in Munster finals and in All Ireland knockout phase, and to do that now, they're going to have to go and pull off some big results similar to what they did against Donegal, say potentially last year. But then they're going to have to. That can't be a once off. That can't be a flash in the pan. they have to follow that up. With securing victory in the home game and the neutral game as well. And ideally going straight to the quarterfinal, as simple as it sounds when you say it. But yeah, that's what the group has to target. But the first game, we're looking forward to looking ahead to that. That's going to be a huge game for this team, for the squad, and hopefully what they can do now is just rest and recover after, like I said, it was a massive effort. Give them all the credit in the world for how hard they went at it and the efforts they made. They need to recover now and get bodies fit. Hopefully, Tommy Walsh can get fit. Rory Dean came off injured. All these guys, like I said, Luke Fahey, etc. Get all the bodies fit and just go at it with one go. Because look, as I said, there's a few of them there who, maybe don't have that many seasons left, and they'll want to go for it with everything they have.
Definitely. So, hopefully the Cork footballers will get a good season later on in the year, and hopefully this isn't the flash of the pan in terms of this performance against Kerry, but some good signs nonetheless. Yeah, thanks, John, for coming on to the podcast today, and thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks very much, Matthew.